Those rumours were laid to rest. All Black fullback Matthew Ridge is to join Graham Lowe's Manly League side in Sydney. Lowe is also believed to be chasing Zinzan Brooke and a few other top Auckland players seen in action over the last fortnight.
I've decided to pursue a career in rugby league. That's basically all it is.
A shock in the Wallaby camp last night. Queensland's rugby union test star Michael O'Connor has signed to play rugby league for St George next season. Just how much his contract is worth will remain a secret.
I changed for the money and for the challenge. I was young enough, I knew that if I left it any longer, I wouldn't be hungry.
Well, Michael O'Connor and Matthew Ridge have shown that you can go from being a top rugby union player to be a great rugby league player. But to me, more importantly, they've shown how to do it.
Ellis through. Has a corner outside. Ellis got himself. Now to O'Connor, and that's a magnificent try.
Oh, cut out pass. Went to O'Connor. He picked it up at the half volley. Gets a kick downfield. He could score a try. He's the only man anywhere near it. He will score a try. Michael O'Connor, magnificent.
Good hands here, Timu, and Ridge is going for the corner. And Matthew Ridge has his first try for the All Blacks.
Manly to bomb away. Young man, Riola with fullback waiting. Ridge gets the try they need.
Matthew Ridge, All Black 1989-90, Kiwi 1990, Michael O'Connor, Wallaby 1979-82, Kangaroo 1985-1990. In the modern game, they're unrivaled. Both have reached the top in rugby union and rugby league. Two men who share a passion and a fear.
I never wanted to be a failure, you know, and it still drives me now. I mean, the fear of failure drives you every day. Well, it drives me, and that's, you know, one of my main motivators is not to let people down, and most of all, not to let myself down. I hate losing. I mean, that's the thing that has really motivated me and kept me going in football. Just the fear of failure more than anything. Yeah, I just can't accept that.
I've got one back.
If Michael O'Connor and Matthew Ridge are driven by that fear of failure, it's most often manifested itself into an overwhelming desire to win, whatever the pastime.
You are definitely a better tennis player than you are a footballer. God, I love that feeling. There's not much between us, really. Only that you can hold your serve and I can't.
No, only about 38 points so far.
I came up with a lot of friends playing tennis, and they're still close friends now, and really competitive. And well, I was a mini John McEnroe, I think, and like I was really bad on the court. I used to intimidate people on the tennis court, and you know, they used to try and intimidate me, but I think I was the worst, because if I was losing to a guy that I knew didn't have half the talent I did, I used to let him know, you know, it's like, you can't play, mate, what a bunny you are. And they'd be beating me, but then all of a sudden, like, it'd register in the head, well, I shouldn't be beating this guy, and they'd start losing.
Here we go, Michael. Lean forward now.
Come on,
Just got to put him off a little bit and he goes off his game.
I always remember playing a guy by the name of William Laban, and he was a top player then, he still is a top player, and I was beating him, and I wasn't supposed to be beating him, and I won the first set, and I was up 5-4 in the second set or something, and he started crying, and his mum and dad were watching, and I felt really sorry for him, and you know, I remember changing ends and going, oh Willie, don't worry about it, you know, blah blah blah. Anyway, the prick ended up beating me, and ever since that day I thought, right, I'm never ever ever going to let that happen again, and from then on I didn't.
Oh, yes! Eight's nice.
That's it.
Is that it?
When I was young, I played a lot of sport. I was very active. I remember I used to chase cars around the block in Nowra. I actually was so competitive that I chased after my mother, and she was driving my grandmother to the train station, and I was holding onto the back of the Volkswagen. I wouldn't let it go because I thought I could keep up with it.
And in the end I couldn't, and the car dragged me about 50 metres up the road. I refused to let go of it.
Oh, Reggie, too good, mate.
Thanks, mate. Well played. Unlucky.
6 love.
Unlucky. No, 6 love. 6-1.
6-1.
No, it was a good effort. Won it.
Thank you, ball boys, linesman, crowd. The crowd left actually after the
They
first
did,
game.
didn't they? After they saw you serve. Rah. No, Snods, I think
A bit more
it's...
practice, I'll play this time next year.
No, mate, you're going really well, but it's all in the breathing.
Breathing?
It's a bit like golf.
Yeah.
It's all in the breathing, mate. You just got to relax. I mean, you psyched yourself out a little bit, didn't you, mate?
Where do you think I lost it?
Well, you
first
lost it when
game?
you walked out on the court, mate.
Really?
Yeah.
Brookvale Oval, Sydney, home of the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Home too to club fullback Matthew Ridge and captain Michael O'Connor.
Manly. I mean, the style of football that we played, O'Connor was like, he was born for it.
I think it's fair to say if I didn't go to Manly, I wouldn't be playing the game now. Manly really encompassed everything that I was looking for in a football side.
O'Connor back inside to Williams. Williams is on the boil up the side.
At Manly it was different. If it was on the first tackle, you had a licence to run, and because of that, because you had the ball so often, you develop a great deal of confidence.
Yes, indeed, they're cutting him to shreds at the moment. This is magical football. Magic.
We scored a lot of tries, probably had a lot of tries scored against us, but it was good fun, good attacking football, and I just really enjoyed it.
You never turn your back. Don't turn your back. Just go back and just look along the line. There'll be someone down either end.
When Matthew Ridge came to Sydney in May 1990, he was the Auckland and All Black fullback. In New Zealand, his conversion would start a national obsession whereby a rugby union international might be measured by how well he would go if he changed to rugby league. For Matthew, there was an air of expectation and a looming possibility of failure.
There was a big thing in New Zealand about no rugby union convert had ever made it, and I was aware, but it didn't worry me. I thought, well, hey, I'm Matthew Ridge, there's so-and-so and so-and-so, I know what I can do, and I believe in my own ability, and I believe that I can succeed. They all said I was too small and not strong enough and not quick enough and not this and not that. I didn't have anything, I couldn't play. A lot of people said that, so, I mean, if I'd failed, who cares? But I knew I wasn't going to fail.
I just couldn't believe the amount of media attention. He came with an entourage of cameras, and it was like the arrival of Prince for I mean, there are a lot of similarities between he and Prince too. But I mean, he was very confident. That's the thing that struck me about Matthew, and I liked about him. He was very confident, had plenty of ticker, and wasn't afraid to have a go, and I really admire him for that.
Welcome to the club, Matthew's an All Black or an ex-All Black.
The man behind Matthew Ridge's switch to rugby league was Manly's Graham Lowe, a former Kiwi coach with big plans for the new boy.
I got home one day and there was a message on my answer phone, Graham Lowe here, he gives us a call sometime, and I was like, oh wow, freaked me out, dude. And I never called him, and then he called me back the next day, and he just said, well, look, I'm looking for another player. Would you be interested in going to rugby league? And I said, yep, straight away, yep.
I think he was surprised to hear from me. But thinking back on it now, I was very impressed with his attitude, as I have been all along. He was just so positive.
Straight across the front of the forwards. Into the hands
The 1990 All Black trials, and Matthew has more than the silver fern on his mind.
Could be an overlap here. Terry Wright took it well, pumped it up well for Ridge. That's a good try for Matthew Ridge.
I do remember knowing that he was going to be down there, and I think he'd spoken to me before that, and so it was basically a trial for me. And I remember in that game I tried to get really involved, and I wasn't playing to get in the All Blacks, so I was playing to get in Manly.
I was actually quite keen on John Gallagher as well, from what I'd seen. I'd seen more of John Gallagher than I had of Matthew, and I was very impressed with Gallagher's speed and just his general all-round play. But I weighed the two of them up when I saw them in the All Black trial. I weighed the two of them up, but we decided to go with Matthew.
Ducking and diving like a lightweight boxer there, gets up towards the 10-metre mark, and that's good running by Matthew Ridge?
I didn't try and talk him out of it. I really wanted to make sure he was doing it for the right reasons. And I recall looking at him and saying, well, you know, I hope you're successful at league, but I don't know whether you're going to be quick enough. And that was all the challenge he needed. He looked straight back at me and he said, I'll prove you wrong.
I was really disappointed because a good friend of mine, I think everybody will know who I'm talking about, he's got long hair and he plays number 8 for the All Blacks. He was very close to signing too, and he'd gone through exactly the same stages I'd gone through. He'd sorted out his money. He was on a little bit more than me, actually. I think he was on a little bit more than me, and we used to discussing our contracts, and one thing you're not allowed to do is talk about your contracts, and me and Zinni, well, what'd you get? And I thought, you know, well, Zinni's going to sign, I'm going to sign anyway, and I signed, and Zinni was meeting Doug in the afternoon, and I rang Zinni up at about 6:30, and I said, have you signed? He said, no. And I said, why not? He said, oh, such and such. I said, oh, okay, you know, well, that's cool, I'm signing. And he said, yeah, well, I still want to sign, but I want to speak to Graham.
I've probably spoken to a couple of dozen rugby union players of various standard, you know, international down to club players, and but I've only ever spoken money to 2 of them, and Matthew was the first one. I spoke money to the other player, and actually he signed as well, but consequently changed his mind.
I decided that that rugby union was better for me.
Matthew Ridge's earliest memory of playing rugby union is as a 7-year-old schoolboy.
And I was really little. I'm still little, but I used to play against all the big island boys, and they used to knock me around, but it was good fun. And we used to play against a stone wall, like the try line. There'd be a try line, and then there was a stone wall about a metre after the try line, and the amount of times I crashed into that, it was good. Hardened me up.
His first passion was soccer, but it was as a nationally ranked junior tennis player that young Matthew would make his name.
Probably I was worse than John McEnroe, really, but you know, if things don't go right for me, I'm not the type of guy that can keep it, you know, in check. And you know, rackets used to go flying, and I felt sorry for the umpires and a few parents around. I wasn't a very liked person around the tennis circuit on the tennis court anyway, but I just didn't like to lose, and when I was losing, everybody knew about it.
I mean, you just wasted a career, you've wasted talent. You've obviously been put onto this earth to play tennis. You've decided to play football.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get the
There's more money in tennis. You're going to make more money. You could have made more money in tennis than football ever made in football. I heard, now I don't know how correct this is, but the reason you didn't go on with your tennis is because of your attitude. You got a very bad attitude on the tennis court.
A bad attitude?
You abuse linesmen in the same way that you abuse referees on the football field.
Snoz, when have you ever seen me abuse a referee on the football field?
Sunday.
Bullshit.
Control from Errol Brain. Tuigamara to Ridge to Tuigamara.
I first came across Matthew in 1989 when I coached the New Zealand Colts, and the thing that impressed me and stays in my memory is his mental hardness, his ability and will to want to succeed, and it sort of was something that was infectious to a team. He was an all-rounder. I mean, he was a great tennis player. He was a ball player, so he had great skills. He wasn't doing a lot of goal kicking at that time, and he turned out to be a sensational goal kicker. And I think that Colts tour of '89 really was the start of that.
Matthew's big break came in 1988 when he replaced Auckland's injured fullback Lindsay Harris in a Ranfurly Shield match.
Support from Innes.
I was nervous, but I don't think I've ever felt intimidated by anyone. I don't know, maybe it's just my nature. I just think, you know, I think I can handle most things, and one day I'll probably run into something that I can't handle, but, well, I don't know, I hope not. But no, I wasn't intimidated. I just got out there, and once I was out there, you forget about everything, and it just becomes a game.
Brook, E.T., Ridge again, away goes Matthew Ridge. He may go all the way on his own. Aaron Avula comes in with a crunching tackle from behind. There probably would have been a penalty try if he hadn't got there for that very high tackle on him, but it didn't matter. Away goes Sean Fitzpatrick down within 10 metres of the line. Auckland quickly into their work in the second half. The long pass to Grant Fox, Joe Stanley, Bernie McCahill, Matthew Ridge. 2 tries today for Matthew Ridge.
Matthew was always eager and keen to get into things. He was always always had a you know, like if I can say, like a short fuse, you know, jump in there and jump in with 100%, you know, and that was good, you know, sort of. you get vibes off it, you know, and that sort of rubbed off into other guys in the team and that. And you know, it's good getting different personalities in the team, and he was obviously one of them.
I was quite sad the other night. I was back in New Zealand and I was driving down Queen Street, and I was thinking about the guys because I knew what they'd be doing. They were playing Ireland the next day, and I knew where they'd be staying. And I used to think, well, geez, on Friday night we used to go to the movies in town. And then I looked up, I was driving down Queen Street, and there was Zinny, Ollo, Steve McDowell, AJ Wetton, and I didn't catch the other one, but and they were the guys that I used to go to the movies with. And there they were, just as I was thinking about it, and I looked up and bang, there they were. And I knew then that I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop and jump out and say g'day and how you going and that sort of stuff, but I didn't. And you know, I remember I was sort of like a bit down in the dumps too, because I just feel that although, you know, because I've swapped codes, there is, you know, you can say, oh, there's nothing there, but there is that sort of them and us sort of thing. And I just didn't feel like I had the confidence to get out and go, g'day guys, how you going, in the middle of Queen Street.
To Ridge, to John Kirwan, steps out of one tackle. Is he going to go all the way? But Matthew Ridge is there to finish the movement off.
His eye-hand and eye-foot coordination was good, and he had confidence with it, which is important, especially at fullback. He had a lot of courage, wasn't scared to go up and attack the ball. Might have lacked a little bit of pace, full-on pace, but he was good at timing, so he hit the line back.
For a little guy, he was undoubtedly tough, but Matthew's aggressive style would get him in the odd bit of strife, like in Fiji in 1990.
I'll never forget it. I didn't think I was going to get out of Fiji alive. It was a dag. We'd spun the ball wide or something like that. I remember Foxy spun it out, and then lo and behold, they bashed Terry right over, and this big guy was coming through, and he sort of elbowed me out of the way. So I did my best Mike Tyson impersonation, and it was like just a fly landing on his chin. And anyway, he didn't take too kindly to it. And I hit him, I looked at him, and I knew I was in trouble. And I thought, I got to get out of here. So I just hightailed it. And the next thing I knew, I was on the running track, and I looked over my shoulder and I thought, oh, they won't be chasing me, surely. And there were these 6 guys, 6 big Fijian boys running after me, and they were fast. And I've never run so fast in my life. But I ran up one end, and then I had to turn around because the spectators were jumping over the fence, and they were running after me too, and throwing oranges and coconuts. And honestly, I thought it was it.
In goes Bruce Morton looking for the loose ball, and he turns it round for Eaty. Stanley, Kirwan, Ridge. Is this Matthew Ridge's second try? Yes, it is. 2 tries in the second half for the Auckland fullback, Matthew Ridge. That's the 8th try today for the Shield holders. It's 46-3 after 16 minutes.
The match I remember most for Auckland was against Otago down in Carisbrook. It was a really, really tough game, and Otago played really well, and they put a lot of pressure on me, and I think that game got me into the All Blacks. I mean, I didn't do anything great, but I didn't make any mistakes. And I can just remember coming off and thinking, you know, if I don't get in now, I'll never get in.
Look at the charging figures. And Ridge, eye on the ball, saved it beautifully.
The selectors did notice, and Matthew earned a place on the All Black tour to Great Britain and France in 1989 as second-string fullback to the dynamic John Gallagher. And for an All Black debut, you can't get much better than the greatest rugby ground of them all, Cardiff Arms Park.
The one thing I was worried about was the haka. It was really, really weird. I remember practicing the haka for days on end in my change, you know, not in the change room, in my bedroom, and I was just so nervous about the haka. I couldn't believe it because I just didn't want to look like a goose, you know, because it was such a tradition, you know what I mean? And I looked like a goose anyway because I jumped about half an hour early. But it was a good game. I'll never forget pulling on the black jersey and thinking, wow, this is it. I mean, what a place to play your debut, Cardiff Arms Park.
Brave fight by the Cardiff 15, 21 points to 15, the All Blacks lead. Now Basham, can we see a good back movement here? Here's Innes, pops it up for Ridge. The All Blacks have put it...
The ambitious youngster was chasing John Gallagher's Test fullback jersey and gaining.
I always thought I could push Kipper, and he knew that, and it was good because, I mean, he just played superbly. And I forced my way into the test, well, not the starting lineup, but into the test squad for the test against Ireland, I think. Yeah, Ireland. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm here now and I'm barking at his heels and I'm not going to stop.
All Blacks running onto this one a little better as they get to the 10-metre line. Here's Gatland. Flicks it out to McCarhill. Good hands here, Timu. And Ridge is going for the corner. And good try for the All Blacks, Matthew Ridge. And Matthew Ridge has his first try for the All Blacks.
I remember dotting down and thinking, well, thank goodness I'm not going to go through the All Black tour without scoring a try, because I was getting a little bit worried. But I won't forget that too quickly either.
So the All Blacks began 1990 with 2 top fullbacks, and then came the blockbuster.
I've decided to pursue a career in rugby league. That's basically all it is.
And then an even bigger shock.
I'll be going to play for the Rugby League Club Leeds.
And someone rings me up and says, John Gallagher's gone to Leeds, and I tried to act like I was really cool and that sort of stuff, but I was devastated because I wanted to play a test. And if I'd had known Kipper was going, I would have waited. And unfortunately, you know, Kipper to this day says that, you know, he didn't know what I was doing, and maybe that's right. But you know, I'm sure he would have heard it in the wind somewhere. But if he didn't, fair enough. But if he did, thanks very much, Kipper.
And while Gallagher left New Zealand a millionaire, Graham Lowe had some disappointing news for Matthew.
That's right, he said, what do you think you're worth? And I'd gone in there, I remember going in there thinking, I'm going to come out a millionaire. And I thought, you know, 500,000 sounds okay, you know. And he said, what do you think you're worth? And I went, don't know. And right then he had me, you know, because I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anything about rugby league or the money side of it. But it didn't really worry me, and I remember just saying, not too sure. And he said, well, this is what I think, blah, blah, and blah. And I've gone, And I said, okay, I'll have to think about it. And I've come out, man, and I'm so deflated. Here I was thinking I'd walked into Lotto.
He did all right. His first contract he did all right, but he had to earn it. He had to earn the money, and I didn't make it easy for him, but he did very, very well, and consequently he was rewarded well, and he's since certainly made up for any shortcomings that he might have thought he was getting early on. He's got them now financially.
Matthew? Yeah. Just so that they know who the target man is, shirt off, please. Two on, shirt off. Just rip her off. I'll take her off. You guys give him bulk support because he needs it. Out.
Lesson 1 in rugby league. You're going to have to earn your money and show your teammates you're tough enough to make it in the Winfield Cup.
No, I'm sorry. Matthew, it's you and them. Fellas, punch out of him. Give him a dead set fucking hiding. I want you to be as spiteful and as nasty and as aggressive and vindictive as you possibly can. Matthew, for 30 seconds you give all. Because this happens on the field, and whether you like it or not, those guys mean more than these guys mean. They're just going to put in as much as they can. Move in, headlocks together. Heads locked together. Righto. You two guys don't give him 100% full flat on hiding. You guys go up the rope and he gets away with it. Matthew, you don't defend yourself as much as you possibly can and put in a heart-girdling effort. You go up the ropes. Give them support, fellas. They need it. Ready? Come on, Richie. Now work at it, Matthew. You work your life out. You work as hard as you can. Set! Get into it! Get into it! Take his head off, Jeff! Get off the front of him, Jeff! Take his head off! Nolan, will you take his head right off his shoulders? Matthew, work at him! Get your head down, Matthew! Work! 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 Jeff, will you work at him? Work at him, Matthew! You got 10 seconds to go! 5! Work at him, Matthew! 5! 4! Work! Jeff, you're not working! You're taking his head off!
I knew that it was a test for me, and that you know that the guys were looking at me and seeing how, you know, whether I had a heart or that sort of thing, and I loved it.
Most people over here thought, you know, I needed my head read for putting him straight into first grade. That was just unheard of. But I believed at that time that we wouldn't get true value out of Matthew unless we did show confidence in him and put him straight into the first grade. And if he made a mistake, well, so what, he made a mistake.
Most people would be able to appreciate that when you play with class players, you lift your standard. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to the guys that are playing under or reserve grade, but they're not quite to the standard that first grade footballers are at, and I think I may have dropped to their standard and possibly never got a chance in first grade.
June the 2nd, 1990. Manly line up against Cronulla, and to Matthew, this is a whole new ball game.
How are the nerves?
Oh, not too bad at the moment. Obviously, when I get out there, I'll be feeling them a bit, but it's just pressure. I like pressure, so I'll give it a go.
So I've spoken to this radio guy. I walked into the change room. Everyone's telling jokes and laughing and carrying on. There's people milling around everywhere because there's only one change room. So you've got your under-21s, your reserve grade, and your first grade, all getting changed or showered or unchanged. And it's talking and chattering and jokes and laughing. And I was just like, you're kidding. How can I prepare like this? But then when they run out on the field, they know what they've got to do, and they just switch on. Or hopefully they switch on. But I couldn't get used to it. For the first couple of games, I was like, will you guys shut up, or maybe I should go and get my own changing room somewhere so I can concentrate. And it's all those little things that people don't seem to realise that what you've got to confront and get over.
The very first time Matthew played for Manly, the first time he touched the ball, the worst thing happened. He got hit and dropped it first up, and I thought, how's he going to handle this? But he got back on the bike again and took off, and I think that he showed so much eagerness and keenness in that very first game. That always sticks in the mind.
Matthew's playing debut was a big success, but it was his goal kicking that had everyone talking. The Kiwi super boot seemed to have come from nowhere.
Lowy swears to me that he knew, and I still to this day swear that he didn't know, because I didn't really know. I kicked a little bit for the Auckland Colts and New Zealand Colts, but I think the only reason why I got the kicking job was because Michael O'Connor was injured.
Dr. Lloyd Drake had seen him kicking. I think that Lloyd had seen him kicking for Ponsonby, I'm not sure. Lloyd's actual words to me were that he can kick as good as Grant Fox can, and that was a pretty big statement.
From way out on the sideline, what a sensational goal! Into the breeze.
Ridge moves in. This was a good-looking kick. It's straight, and the flag got raised. Ridge is just so valuable with his goal-kicking ability.
He's looking for a field goal. He couldn't get it on his right foot. Very casually, he turned to his left.
He's probably the best cold kicker in the comp, and he sort of actually changed the way Sydney Rugby League emphasis on kicking. He was winning games for us, and other coaches realised that they had to get kickers themselves.
Nobody seems to realise how much pressure there is in goal kicking. They all go, oh, what a freak, what a talent, there's so many, all these Kiwis can bang them over from anywhere, but I bet you ask any of those guys, and while you enjoy goal kicking, we've set such a high standard for ourselves now that when you miss a kick, the crowd goes, oh, and you feel it, you honestly feel it. You're running back and you think, oh, what a goose, and it's something that nobody else seems to understand, and it's the only time in the game when everyone is focused in on you.
No breeze to worry about. Hits it solidly, and the flags are up. Manly fly away. Scoring in the first 2 minutes, they lead 6 points to 0.
It's mind over matter. It comes back to being tough. There's plenty of guys out there that can kick a ball further than me, or that can run faster than me, that can do things I can't do, but it comes back to your mind, and if I can beat them up there, you win the battle.
Out again. Across the paddock, off the feet of Ridge, play on! Ridge has been an incredible difference. They went a step better.
I think I got my first try in my second game, and then I got my second try in my fourth game, and I thought, hey, this is great. And then I didn't score a try again for the rest of the season, and I was filthy. But scoring a try in rugby league is fantastic because you don't often get the chance, because, as you say, it's so defence orientated. I know that I'm starting to read the game a lot better, and I know where to be and just how to turn up to score tries now.
Matthew Ridge had played just 4 games for Manly. He was just getting the hang of this rugby league thing when he would be dramatically thrust into the limelight again. 3 months earlier, he'd been an All Black. Now Ridge was a Kiwi.
Delighted. He's going to play a big part for Great Britain today with his kicking game. Listen to the roar of the crowd. Matthew Ridge takes it well. The first touch of the ball in Test match football.
Well, that'll give Matthew Ridge tremendous confidence. He wanted a kick like that, really. He was well underneath it. That'll do him good.
Side the Great Britain half now. Down the blind. Ridge trying to find touch over on the grandstand side. A quick kick. Tell you can't do anything wrong in the opening stages.
Though praised by most critics, Matthew's kicking performance on his Test debut was only average by his own high standards. The pressure was on, and even this tough nut was feeling it.
I'll never forget this reporter coming up to me. When I miss these kicks, I thought, if we lose a game, I bet you everyone will, there'll be people that'll blame me. No matter how well I play during the game, because I missed the stuff that I'm not supposed to miss, I've let the side down. And this reporter came up to me after the game and he said, Matthew, tell me about the kicks you missed, pretty crucial kicks and you lost the game. And I snapped. And it's the only time I've really snapped at anyone. I just said, well, if you think that, write that, mate. And he did. And he said, the young fullback or whatever, he snapped at questions like that. And I did. And I thought, well, hey, I'm never ever going to let that happen again. I've just got to take it on the chin.
In less than a year, Matthew Ridge had played for his country in rugby union and rugby league. He'd experienced the ultimate.
Favourite moment in rugby league, I think, was the first time I pulled on the Kiwi jersey. And people say it all the time, and they say, when I get the silver fern and that. But it's a big deal because there's 30-odd thousand or 40,000 or how many people play rugby in New Zealand and rugby league. And when you get to put the number 1 jersey on, you've got to think about all those people that are striving for that jersey too, and it's a real privilege. And to know that you're going out there and playing for your country and playing for the pride of your nation, because New Zealand is such a proud country.
Like Michael O'Connor before him, Matthew had scaled the heights twice. He was coming to understand what rugby league costs physically and mentally.
I don't think really people know what the word mentally tough means. I think it gets used so much. And Graham hit it on the button last night. I mean, we're really struggling, Manly are at the moment. And when it comes down to it, it's how you use your mind and that sort of thing. The word gets branded around so much. You've got to be so mentally tough, but you just take it for granted. And I like to think I am. I like to think I can be, but I know that I'm not mentally tough every week. Because if I was mentally tough every week, I wouldn't miss a kick, I wouldn't miss a tackle, or I'd play off my brain every week. And I just think it's something you've really got to work at, and it's practice. You've got to practice in your mind what you're going to do, and that's mentally tough. And I know I don't do that, and I know I can be a better player when I get to that stage.
Manly are hard to play against when they get 2 sets of 6 inside your quarter. They're about to show it. Hasler, another break. Ridge.
Matthew improves week to week, and his confidence, although Matthew's full of confidence, his confidence on the field now is rubbing off on the other players. He knows he can play the game, and I think other players, the opposition, are starting to be aware of Matthew being there in attack and not just his defence.
It's a totally different game. And rugby league, I have to talk a lot because I can see exactly what's happening. I'm the only one that's back there, and there's one line in front of me, and I can see where all the holes are. I can see where we're weak on defence or where they're weak on defence. So it's my job. If I don't talk, no one else knows what's going on. I mean, guys are exhausted. You've got to appreciate that they're just tackling their bums off.
When you've got someone talking to you, geeing up, telling you where you should be, it does lift you, and it helps the side. Matthew I think he realises that now, that the more he talks, the better we play. And his input into the side now is up there with Mike O'Connor as a captain.
if a guy's made his 5th tackle in a row, I mean, he's absolutely exhausted and he's just going on instinct, running back into the line. But if he runs back into the wrong place and they see that he's run back into the wrong place and they go the other way and score a try, it's my fault. See on their eyes, and they don't have to look, they just run.
Finger on the reason. Here's Sinclair with a little kick ahead. Carrying him across, but it goes to Gary Jack. Turning, hands on the inside out. The cross goes Ridge, fullback on fullback. Great tackle by Ridge.
The number of tackles you have to do in a game. I mean, I'd go through a game of rugby union and only probably do 1, maybe 2 tackles. I can remember playing games where I didn't do a tackle at all at outside centre. Well, you know, you have to average probably a dozen tackles a game at least, and physically you need to be stronger, I think, up in the chest area and shoulder area. You have to familiarise yourself with what sort of players are going to make breaks. And that only comes from experience. The more experience you have, the better player you are. It's like anything, tennis. You find that if you've played the game a lot, you know you can anticipate what's going to happen, and that is the hardest thing. You've got to get that anticipation so it becomes second nature.
Hassel standing wide, he makes the break, gets over the 22, looks wide for Hancock, inside is O'Connor, Manly close, Manly and scored! In the first 2 minutes of play.
Sinclair, was he saying something to you on the line today?
Oh mate, he's going,
I know he is, but he's going up at you on the line.
Oh yeah.
Not at the line.
He's got a lot to learn, eh? Oh, Liz, you're shocking. It's rent a camera. Huh? Hey, rent a camera, rent a camera. Put a camera in front of him. Hey, look, don't put my body on this. Hey? Oh, man. Reggie, come over here, mate. If you ever miss a tackle like you missed today, what tackle did I miss today? I don't know. Didn't miss one yet. That's Snoz trying to be captain courageous.
What did you say to that Jason Sinclair?
Huh?
What did you say to Jason Sinclair?
Well, mate, he was just going off. So in the end, Kevin was beating him all the time. So he'd run past me saying, I'm going to get you, you black so-and-so. And I'd just say, you're getting outclassed, mate. You know, go back to the drawing board. And he was just getting more and more psyched up.
Did he say that when you tackled him down that left-hand side?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said to me, after the game, mate, you're skipping outside with me and I'm going to smash the shit out of you.
Rugby league isn't fun. I wouldn't use fun as a word to describe it. It's business, it's hard. Rugby union, you can be uninhibited, you've got a lot of freedom and the travel is great and it's very social, and I miss that. I must admit I do miss that. Rugby league is a lot harder. It's a week-to-week thing, proposition. It is a bit of a grind. I certainly wouldn't describe it as fun, but it gives you something else. It gives you a sense of satisfaction that I probably didn't have when I was playing rugby union. I was too carefree when I was playing rugby union.
12 years ago, Michael O'Connor exploded onto the international rugby scene from the back blocks of Canberra. At just 18, he was a Wallaby. At 19, he would become part of one of the most celebrated midfield combinations in rugby union history.
Away to Ella, Michael Hawker, Michael O'Connor. Gould picks it up well. Slips him in inside him. Look at Ella in support. The high kick. Stuart Wilson in Podland there. Wilson fell over. Must be a try for Hawker, and it is.
Came about by accident, really. Andrew Slack was selected in the centres and I was picked on the wing for the All Black series, and Andrew Slack pulled out, and so you had the combination of Mark Ella, Michael Hawker at inside centre and myself at outside centre. And we knew each other's game inside out from the schoolboys tours, and right from the word go we struck up an incredibly good combination. We were different players altogether, but we just seemed to mould together so well.
O'Connor, Ella and Hawker first played together as schoolboys and became the toast of Australian rugby and were dubbed the Holy Trinity.
I think it was a unique combination of three naturally gifted players who were allowed to play the natural game. You know, again, we came off that schoolboy tour, we knew each other's abilities, we knew exactly how to play the game. We all wanted to attack and run with the ball, and when we had the opportunity of very young players playing our first test, or I was at least playing my first test against the All Blacks at the SCG. It was pretty awe-inspiring, but when you got two players like this outside here with the same motivation that you have, you know, it wasn't a problem, and we just ran the ball and we wanted to attack at all times and enjoy the game. And I think that was the key to our success in those early years.
Now Ella again. There's There's a 4-2 here for Australia. O'Connor, Grigg. Oh, that's marvellous rugby.
We're different players. Michael's a hard-running, crash-tackling centre who can offload, stand in the tackle. Mark's just a pure genius with a ball, and I mean, I'm a different player. I'm a player that likes to have the ball in his hands, running and stepping with a bit of momentum up. So we're different players, but I think we moulded very well together. I think we sort of each one of our games complemented the other, or all three of our games.
I was a cart horse in the 2-round round.
Cox away to Ella. That's Hawker. O'Connor and Gould up. Martin with the ball.
You know, we were all keen to try something. You know, we never had, I suppose, a formulated total pattern which we wanted to play and impose on the other guys. We, you know, someone would suggest an idea and say, "Oh, why don't I give it a go and we'll have a look at it."
Away to Ella. Hawker, the loose ball there behind Moon. Moon's got it. Lovely pass to O'Connor. Loveridge coming across. O'Connor kicks. Ball up.
The Australian selectors and ultimately Bob Templeton took a gamble to put 3 young, relatively inexperienced players against the All Blacks. So as Michael and the two Michaels have said, we had no inhibitions at all. We had no sort of a young player, a senior player, a young player. So we had nobody to hold us back, and we didn't know how to play the game. So we didn't have any experience to virtually go back, play tactical, play this, play that. We just said we can only play the game we know how.
Yeah.
So there wasn't no holding back. Let's go.
So have Australia got the silken touch through their backs to make a try here. Ella through the gap. Running on. O'Connor. Martin. They have got the silken touch.
It was very pleasing to be able to play set-piece moves to see them work supremely well because I suppose we'd had 10 years of rugby where there'd been a bit of a lack of that, and you know, I suppose we took a lot of pride, I think, in saying that we could probably cut through a lot of the opposition, or most opposition we came up against.
We were the toast of Australia then, but one thing we've learnt, and I think we learnt then, I mean, as long as you win, everybody loves you, but it was only going to last as long as we kept on winning.
So we're still reading the press then? We stopped reading it soon after that?
Yeah. When we lost the second test, we stopped reading straight away.
Funny about that.
The celebrated trio were members of the 1977-78 Australian schoolboys team. Michael was joined by future greats Michael Hawker, Mark Ella and his brothers Glenn and Gary, Tony Melrose, Chris Roach and Wally Lewis.
I suppose the greatest thing about it was how much we ran the ball, and we scored, I think, 500 or a bit over 550 points for to less than 100 against. I think I also remember that the management said that being a schoolboy tour we weren't allowed to drink at all, but they put the proviso in that if you scored more than 50 points in a game they'd relax the rules, and we won the first game 54-6. That's when the trouble began.
The schoolboys thrilled crowds in Great Britain and Ireland with brilliant running rugby. Michael O'Connor was the leading point scorer, and the team won tests against Ireland, Wales and then England.
I really wanted to win the English game, which is, I suppose, the one game that the previous tour had lost, previous schoolboy tour had lost. We arrived out to Twickenham and it was thick fog and couldn't see, you know, either end or either sideline from the middle of the pitch.
That was the one game the BBC were going to take full on and beam back to Australia. And
scored 3 tries there, no one saw it.
I kicked the ball out of sight for the first time in my life.
I reckon you've had a shocker, Mark.
How would you know?
For Michael, the tour was a dream come true. To him, winning was everything.
From a very early age, I just couldn't stand to be beaten by anybody. And I remember one particular loss. After one particular loss, I think I was an under 10. It was an under 10s grand final, rugby union grand final, against our arch rivals, Morris Brothers. And the full-time hooter went, and we were leading, and we threw up our hands in the air, and a few of the parents came on the field, and we ran off the field because we thought we won the game, but the referee hadn't blown the whistle. And one of the Morris brothers' parents told his boy, it was a guy called Stephen Maloney actually, who went on to become quite a good tennis player, told him to pick the ball up and put it under the post because the referee hadn't blown the whistle. Well, he did this and they kicked the goal and they won. And I was just devastated. I walked home from the Oval, my parents had to follow me in the car, and like it was a good 5 or 6 miles. I just refused to talk to anybody for days afterwards, and it really affected me badly.
Michael had captained the Australian under-16s. He'd been one of the Victoria schoolboys team, and then came his biggest chance with a Wallaby tour to Argentina.
The first time I saw him play was after they returned from that highly successful schoolboy tour of the UK and Ireland. And I remember there was the Australian schoolboys played an exhibition match. It was actually a curtain raiser to, I don't know whether it was a test match or a state game in Brisbane. And this centre quickly took my eye. I'll never forget he scored a magnificent try and didn't seem to be running, but seemed to be just gliding across the turf, and it was done so effortlessly. And immediately I thought, my God, what a player. Not only was he a very good ball player, but he was also a very good tackler, a defensive player, which, you know, you've got to be the complete rugby player. So Michael had all those sorts of skills. He had always seemed to have time to do things, and I think that's the hallmark of any great sportsman, whether be it cricket or rugby or whatever. He always had time on his side, and he seemed to have that marvellous self-assurance, even as a youngster.
However, it was in 1980 that Michael made his name. The Wallabies met the All Blacks in a 3-test series, and going into the third, it was 1-1.
Well, we hadn't beaten the All Blacks for a long, long time. And I can remember going to the game at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and I've never seen so many people in pubs, and the air of expectation was just unbelievable. And we were cheered when we arrived in the bus, and there was just people everywhere. And there was just an electric atmosphere at the Sydney Cricket Ground that day, but I was very confident we were going to win.
Putting lots of pressure on the New Zealanders again. Ella out to Gould, to Brendan Moon for the first time. Covers getting back. Up goes Claude Nelson.
And coming up, the first of many big moments.
It's coming to Australia. Picked up brilliantly by Ella. Surrounded, gets it clear though. And there's going to be another try out on the right, this time to O'Connor.
It was a huge relief to actually score my first try. I can still remember the feeling. It was unbelievable.
What about that dive, Mick? I mean, Craigie, you know, you're standing out there, you just had to put the ball over the line and you're trying to dive 3 feet in the air.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I was a little bit disappointed in that I didn't keep my ankles together.
Did you put the hand down with 2 hands?
I did, yeah. It was probably an 8.
Over the sideline.
Yeah. Nearly dived over the Barongal stand. But, I mean, I was just so relieved to get there, and when I saw that try line, I couldn't get there quick enough, and I wasn't going to be denied.
16 minutes gone in the second half. Australia 9-6.
An Australian Test victory, and Ella, Hawker and O'Connor were being called the best in the world. They'd conquered the All Blacks. Next up was the Five Nations champions to claim the crown of world rugby. Then the Kings were ready to take on the greatest challenge of all, the Grand Slam Tour of Great Britain and Ireland.
We'd beaten the All Blacks too, so there's a huge air of expectation when we arrived in England about how we were being dubbed as the world champions. And we thought we were. We thought that we were going to go over there, and no side had ever won the Grand Slam, and we thought that's exactly what would happen. And we didn't start off very well. We started off on the wrong foot with a game against Leicester. We were beaten in that game, and throughout that trip there was a conflict of interest between the young and the old guard.
We had a situation where we had a number of young fellows like myself, Michael Hawker, the Ellas, very enthusiastic about going to Britain because we'd played there on the tour 4 years before, the schoolboys, and we saw it as a chance to do much the same thing we did on the schoolboys trip. However, we also had a lot of older fellows on the trip, and they didn't want to play the style we wanted to play, and we didn't want to play the style they wanted, and they won out.
Michael's hopes were, however, shattered when finger, knee and ankle injuries put him out for half the tour. His centre spot taken by Andrew Slack. Michael's only real chance to shine came on the wing in the test against Ireland.
Tony Shaw has it now. Now it's fed out from Hawker to McLean. McLean to Slack. Slack to Moon. Moon running into that sea of green jerseys, but the Australians still in possession. Darcy to Hipwell. Hipwell to Slack. Slack out there to O'Connor. A chance for the young winger. The try has been given.
He never ever considered himself a winger, and he wasn't a winger. It's that simple. He was a centre. But at the same time, when you get selected for a test team, if they told you to go and play hooker, and you're a fullback, you'd play it, wouldn't you?
It was rather tragic, but it was, I suppose, a combination of injuries and other talented players we had to fit into the side in the three quarters that perhaps why Michael sort of felt that he was being moved to the wing. It was really because of, I suppose, necessity, not because of real choice.
In 1981, Michael moved from Canberra to Queensland in search of regular top-class opposition.
Alive. What a great movement. O'Connor to the line, and it's over.
When he played club rugby in Queensland, he played for a side, Teachers North at the time, which wasn't strong, really, and he was basically our back line. But he was really brilliant, and we got to the stage of a grand final, although we lost it, really with a side that would not have got anywhere near it if you'd taken him out of it.
Bill Ross to throw the ball into the line out.
He provided the forward-dominated Maroons with a new sense of flair and adventure.
Inside centre through the dummy. Oh, it was taken by the New South Wales defence. Great run by O'Connor. The pass in field. Finally, Tyneman with the ball for New South Wales. But look at the drive by the Queensland forwards. Is that a try? It's a try to Queensland.
Queensland then had a very strong reputation. They'd beaten the All Blacks, they'd beaten Scotland, and virtually were considered then to be amongst the top, if not the top provincial side in the world at that stage. And Michael was very much part of that. I mean, he was very much part of, I suppose, he gave the icing on the cake, so to speak, of a very talented side.
Again, Queensland move it through their backs.
In the 2 years Michael played in Queensland, the Maroons defeated New South Wales in 3 out of 4 games.
Great play by Grigg, wrong foot of the fullback, support of O'Connor, and another great Queensland try. Great play by Peter Grigg, great backing up by Michael O'Connor. Again, Tony Shaw working hard, great ball of Tony Shaw, slack.
That lethal sidestep helped Queensland to victory again and again.
Slack, oh, great try. Wonderful try to
When Australia met Scotland in the home test series in 1982, Michael was back secure in his favoured centre position.
Back to Paul McLean, and that's a try to O'Connor. Beautiful try. Lovely move by...
And while the tries kept coming, he was having doubts about his future as a carefree rugby union nomad.
But looking back on it, no, I didn't. I certainly had no idea that last game against Scotland, that last test at the Sydney Cricket Ground would be my last. And I was really at the crossroads of my life. Didn't know what I wanted to do, and had no money in my bank. And I mean, St George showed up and were offering me a lot of money and a challenge too. I needed a challenge at that point in my life, so I had to make a decision. And my initial decision was no.
He actually wrote a letter, and he put it in an envelope. He was going to mail it, and he rang me, and I was at my girlfriend's place at the time. And he asked my advice.
And he said, mate, he said, you are mad. He said, how much did they offer you? He said, you are crazy. You'll look back on this and it'll be one of the biggest mistakes. You can't, I mean, you get these opportunities, you've got to take them. And I thought about it for a while, ripped the letter up, and ended up ringing John Fleming the next day and saying, yep, I'm going to sign. And it happened. That's how it happened.
So in 1982, Michael O'Connor played his last game of rugby union for Queensland against the Barbarians.
Girls in the back line again, through a dummy. O'Connor, back inside. Great try, Queensland.
My father took my signing with St George very badly, to the extent where we didn't talk to each other for about 4 years, and whenever we did, we ended up invariably in an argument. But my mind was already made up. I was going to play rugby league, and I mean, to this day, I don't think he's ever really accepted. He's mellowed a lot more now, but you know, he didn't think that I'd ever be remembered. He thought that, you know, as a union player, I was just emerging and I was just getting a name on the international scene. He used to say to me, "You'll never be remembered like a Catchpole or one of the greats of rugby union."
I thought that he would make it in rugby league principally because he showed a certain degree of toughness in defence, which is not normally a skill that rugby union players have when they come to the professional code. They tend not to be as aggressive and hard in their defence. But he was physically strong, and all of those wonderful attacking skills, of course, were a bonus.
Michael moved to the working-class Sydney suburb of St George, but there was no welcoming party.
In the eyes of the players, I was another competitor. I mean, I was competition, and you know, like, of the 50 players who were at pre-season training, you knew that only 13 were going to go on and play first grade. So they viewed you with a great deal of suspicion, and if there were any weaknesses in you know, the way you trained, performed at training or whatever, it was up to them to expose it because they were after your position.
It is a big ask for a player to go straight from rugby union in the centres to first grade. I'm sure that others like him, such as Arthur Summons, who later captained Australia in rugby league, he's had to spend an entire season in reserve grade at Western Suburbs. So they don't normally come straight up. You've really got to expose them to the tougher company to see how good they are and whether they can handle it. And so consequently, even though we suspected he might be ready, we really had to be certain and give him some reserve grade games to be sure.
I'd never played reserve grade in my life, and it was a big kick in the teeth, and I never have since. And I think it was just a real blow to the ego more than anything. I didn't play all that well, I didn't play badly, but when I got my chance, I came on in first grade. I took it, I scored a try straight away, and went from there.
Jarvis throws the dummy, turns it back.
It took Michael 3 games in reserve grade to break into the first team, but by the season's end, he would be well established and voted the best and fairest at St George.
Look at O'Connor run inside 32 up to the quarter, still going. The Saints have got to score. They must score. Jones, he's over Jones for a try. Boy, oh boy. What about Michael O'Connor? Beattie, tackle 15 out. Drop shot by Mike O'Connor. Looks good. He's got it. O'Connor's kicked the drop goal.
So while Michael's first year of rugby league ended well, there were tough times ahead.
In 1984, when I missed most of the season with a hamstring injury, I had a recurrence of a hamstring injury, and I missed about 10 weeks, 12 weeks of 1984. I realised just how expendable rugby league players are. You've got to be playing week in, week out. You've got to be in front of the cameras or you're forgotten about. Nobody wants to know you. And I mean, it was a good experience for me, 1984, because it really spurred me on in 1985 to make sure that I played first grade.
1985 would indeed be the beginning of rugby league glory for Michael O'Connor.
O'Connor has intercepted. It's a race between O'Connor and Grove. I don't know whether Grove's got the pace. He's wearing him down. He's not going to get him. Yes, but too late. He left it 1 metre too late. Well, what a sensational moment in the game.
Beaten by 1 point, but it had otherwise been a great year for Michael, including his first and brutal taste of representative rugby league.
The Blues. O'Connor's got it. The line's there. O'Connor scores. New South Wales are in.
O'Connor, 4 from 5, 2 tries, a magnificent debut for O'Connor.
Michael was nursing a broken nose and 2 black eyes, sustained in the City versus Country clash a week earlier.
I collected a forearm by Steve Mortimer. My nose was already broken, and he put it right over here on my right hand cheek with a high tackle. It was a head high tackle, and he just completely wiped me out, knocked me out.
Having made the New South Wales side, Michael now had to give evidence at a judicial hearing into Mortimer's head high tackle.
I was in a terrible situation. There was a conflict of interest because he was my State of Origin captain, and I had to go and give evidence at the judicial hearing on the Tuesday night, which could put him out of the game and put him out of the first State of Origin against Queensland. So what happened was I sort of agreed. Just before he went in, he said, "Look, I don't know what I'm going to say, Snoz." He said, "What if I say that I went to hit you on the shoulder and your arm came up as you were kicking the ball and it ricocheted off and that's how you got hit in the nose?" I said, "Well, look," I said, I can't remember too much of what happened. All I know is I got hit in the nose. But I'll say that is conceivable. If they ask me, I'll say that is conceivable that happened.
he sort of supported me in that he felt it was an accident and it wasn't intent, and I think that may have helped along the way of being justified in the judiciary making the right decision.
If he hit me on the shoulder, it was going to take all the impact. It wasn't going to be my nose. But I said, look, it is possible. So he got off. And it was funny because he then, I mean, he was more surprised than anyone. He then went on to captain the first ever State of Origin winning side against Queensland, and I was a part of that. So I suppose there was justice in the end.
Still plagued by memories of his rugby union days, Michael was selected on the wing instead of his preferred centre spot. But what a debut night for Michael O'Connor, his first State of Origin.
Kenny out of one. Kenny saw the line. The overhead pass is across, and they're in again. New South Wales in again.
The final score, Michael O'Connor 18, Queensland 2. He'd scored 2 tries and kicked 5 goals for all of New South Wales points.
To the line. In to score.
In the second game, an O'Connor penalty goal and a field goal in the dying minutes sealed the series for New South Wales for the first time in the 5-year history of the contest. The Blues' lucky captain, Steve Mortimer, was elated, and O'Connor was on the way to the top in rugby league.
It's just one of those games we played so well, and the opportunities were given to Michael, although he took a lot of opportunities himself, and he made, rather than having good luck, he made his own luck too with his beautiful little stab through kicks and picking the ball up. So he really was a gifted player with the ball, and he made a lot of his own opportunities through his own skill.
In 1986, Michael O'Connor's State of Origin form was again brilliant.
Head pass goes on to Cleal, a bustling run Cleal, just short of the 22, centre of the field. So New South Wales have the option to go either side as Sterling puts a floater on. He gets it to Kenny. Kenny will get it out and they're going to get it. Oh, great try. O'Connor in for New South Wales off another Kenny pass. A beauty. Lewis decides to run it again. It goes to Murray. This time a little jib from Murray. He regathers the ball. Jones slips a good ball out. For Bobby Linder, they can't take it. Gary Jack's on the ball. So New South Wales turn defence into attack. They get it out there to Kenny. Gets on the right corner. And Connor's streaking down. He'll get there. And Connor the defence is coming across. But New South Wales have scored their first try. And that's a length of the field. And that's a ripper. Oh, O'Connor in off a great Brett Kenny pass. Well, 1 minute they were defending and then they were on the attack, and this is how it started.
Michael's form earned him a place in the Australian Test side to play New Zealand, and with centres Brett Kenny and Gene Miles, Michael O'Connor was again on the wing, but he'd got what he wanted. He was a dual Test international. Inevitably, he was picked for the 1986 Kangaroo Tour to England.
It was my goal to go over there and show the English public that I could play the game. And when I got over there, I was really I was an unknown on English soil. All the media attention was towards Meninga. He'd had a season over there, Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, Peter Sterling, Brett Kenny, those sorts of players. And I mean, there was a huge media interest when we arrived, and I mean, it was quite good. I felt quite good that nobody really knew who I was, and I was determined that at the end of the tour that people would be talking about me, and you know, in the same breath as they were talking about these other players.
Out to Sterling. Sterling away there with a cut.
8 years after the schoolboy tour and 4 years after the Wallabies, he was back and about to rewrite the record books.
That's a try. The call has come from Sterling on the open side out to Kenny. Kenny pops a pass to Miles. He's going strong. Gets a pass to O'Connor, and O'Connor's in for the try. No question about it.
3 tries and 5 goals later, O'Connor had set a new record for the most number of points in an Anglo-Australian Test and equalled the record for the number of tries scored in a Test.
O'Connor's in again. 3 tries in a Test match.
But with the pleasure came the pain on a cold night in Halifax. The Australians were on a winning roll, but when Michael came on with 5 minutes to go, the big guys were waiting.
As soon as I got on there, this great big English front rower from Halifax really he wound himself up and ran straight towards me. He knew that I was cold, and I stopped him. He sat me straight on my backside, and he ended up on top of me, and I was on my back. I just sort of dragged him down to the ground. Well, as he got up first, I was still on the ground. He looked down at me and just stamped on my face, and as a result, he opened up my chin and left me with a very nasty wound, and I've subsequently had to have plastic surgery for, which you can still see it now. But it was a very nasty thing, and it went straight through to the bone, and it got infected, and I looked like the Elephant Man for the rest of the tour.
You're like a big Shirley. Come on, get it up there. Come on. Get that guts going. Quick. Come on. Hard. Hard. Come on. Hard.
Despite opening the gash again and again the next week, coach Don Furner insisted Michael keep playing if he wanted to keep his test berth. His face would be scarred for life.
I went away a fresh-faced kid and came back a hardened rugby league professional. The only thing I still had was for me, the only thing going for me still was the fact that I had all my teeth. Still have.
Rugby's golden boy had perfected the art of chip, kick and chase in both codes. His solo effort in the second test against Great Britain in 1986 will go down as one of the great kangaroo tries of all time.
Try. Michael O'Connor. Magnificent. Magnificent stuff from the Dual International. And Wally Lewis is ecstatic and runs up and bangs his hand. Oh, yeah. What quality stuff that from the great Dual International.
When I chipped, I thought, well, at the very least, Lee Crooks is going to come over and take me out and I might get a penalty. Well, for some reason he didn't. He let me go. I chipped and simply chased over. It was a race for the ball. It was perfectly weighted. It just pulled up before the try line, and I managed to run unencumbered to the ball, picked it up and dived over. And I mean, I must remember, as far as test tries, it was the greatest test try that I've ever scored, without a doubt.
It was a beauty, but in the following year's State of Origin, Michael's own favourite try would come about.
I can't look back on my career and say I've scored a more important or better try than that, because the game was delicately held in the balance. Queensland had all the play, and that try sort of came out of the blue from Noel Cleal. He made a bust down the left-hand side, threw a wild ball which was above my head. I plucked it out of the sky, went down the sideline, chip kick, regathered, beat I think Alan Langer and Gary Belcher for the ball and scored. That still stays in my mind because we ended up winning the game, I think, by a couple of points. It was the last time New South Wales had ever beaten Queensland at Lang Park, and it happened at such an important stage in the game that when I look at it with all the other factors, it was probably the best try that I've ever scored.
In 1987, 4 years after joining St George, Michael took a big step and moved to the Manly Sea Eagles.
And we needed somebody in the centres that was, had the ability to score tries and make breaks and be an asset to the club, and he fitted that bill.
Michael revelled in the flamboyant Manly style and the coaching of Bozo Fulton.
Williams is on the boil up the sideline. Long floating pass goes back inside to Hasler. Hasler's going to motor down there. Gets the pass to Michael O'Connor, and Michael O'Connor's gone round and scored a try. Yes, indeed, they're cutting him to shreds at the moment. This is magical football. Magic.
Well, Bozo was great because for the first time in my career I had a back coach, somebody who'd actually played at a high level and knew how to exploit opposition defences, and he was a very pragmatic coach. He was able to, he wasn't great on lectures or motivation or anything like that, and he was very good at moving defences around and knowing how to exploit them, knowing the best way to run the ball, and he was all for attacking football.
Michael O'Connor was that touch that Manly needed to win the competition, and that was proven in September '87 when he played a very important role in that grand final win.
I feel ecstatic or overjoyed, like a lot of the other players. I felt more relieved because I'd been there, I'd been through the whole thing in '85 and the build-up, and I mean it's like such a letdown when you get beaten, and I was more afraid of getting beaten than winning, than accepting the win itself. And it was more a sense of relief than anything else. I just felt enormously relieved.
State of Origin traditionally brings out intense rivalry, even amongst touring teammates. This was especially so for the former Queensland Rugby Union rep who'd turned blue.
Stab kick again, taken by O'Connor. O'Connor winds up, and he's taken down with some good defence by Lewis, and there's a little
In 1987, Michael had played every game for Manly, New South Wales and Australia.
New South Wales starting to stretch out, and Kenny slips a lovely ball over, and that's a try! Thank you very much to O'Connor! Number 2 for Michael O'Connor, the Manly star that's got it all!
He was named at centre in the Team of the Year and collected the Dally M Award for that position, making a mockery of the selector's insistence at putting him on the wing.
He's got O'Connor backing him up, the kick and chase, it's on, Lewis is there, it's gone loose, try! O'Connor over for New South Wales after a very, very good break from Andrew Eddinghausen.
Unfortunately for Michael, he could play on the wing. But I say this, that if he couldn't play on the wing, he would have been in the centres and they would have found somebody else to go on the wing. But he could play just as good in the centres as what he could on the wing, and that's bad luck for Michael, because I know he likes playing in the centres and he doesn't particularly like playing on the wing. But I mean, you're better off being in there, and not that he wouldn't have been there otherwise. I mean, if he wasn't in a number 5 or a number 2 jumper, he would have been in 3 and 4, and somebody else would have had to spot, because O'Connor was one of the first players picked in any side he's played in.
Michael O'Connor was named the 1988 Yardley Footballer of the Year, defeating stars from 3 other codes. O'Connor's electrifying pace, step off either foot and great ball control has left him in the same bracket as Australia's best team centres. But what made Michael O'Connor stick out from the rest was his individual brilliance.
Lyons and O'Connor coming back the other way, but around Sterling, still going O'Connor to the quarter line. Does anybody want to tackle him? He's gone out now to Matt Burke. Burke 10 metres out. Oh, how easy is this?
Ellery Hanley having a bit of push and shove with Bacco, but let's come back here as O'Connor.
So what do you do when it seems you've done it all in rugby union and rugby league, from grand finals to test records? What was there left?
There's nothing Michael hasn't done. And to be captain of Manly, I think, just gave him the lift that he might have been looking for. And he's always tried to lead from the front. Without being disrespectful to him, he is in the twilight of his career. He knows that, but he's got a burning desire to lift up that Winfield Cup, and I hope for his sake that we can pull it off, because it's the one thing he's been in a premiership winning side, but to be captain would be something special, and I just like to do it, obviously for many reasons, but none more so than for Michael.
My game has drastically changed as a result of my captaincy, more being given the captaincy. It's fair to say that when I was younger, and the reason for a lot of my success is that I was a selfish player. I mean, at school I was always referred to as a hog because I'd never pass the ball, but I really used to go out and play for myself, and I can honestly say that there were games that we lost, and I felt happy with myself even though we lost, because I'd played well. But I don't have that feeling now. I'm really worried about other players in the side, and I mean, I'm probably just a sign of the times, but it does affect me. My trademark of my game was I used to always do things out of the ordinary, chip kicks, and well, I never do those now because I'm far more responsible, and I encourage other players not to do them and work within the team.
Stokes away quickly for Bella and Lyons. The kick out wide, Brad Connor will win the race. What quick thinking! Super try! Oh, Cliff Lyons take a bow. That was magic.
Ridge kicks.
1990, Manly had a new coach in Graham Lowe, a sensational new goal kicker in Matthew Ridge, and a new captain. He had all the skills, from soccer to basketball.
Crossfield, shaping. Over the top, beautifully for O'Connor. He's got Iro outside. Iro's gone in. He beat Jack anyway. He'll get to the line. Jack, will he get there? No. Iro! It's a Manly try from deep in their own territory. It threatened to...
And how Ritchie and Snoz love to win, whatever the sport.
Just keep an eye on this. Oh, I think that might be in the drink. Nah, position plus.
Can I borrow your tea?
That'd be right. Hey? $200,000 a year, man. He can't afford a tea.
Yeah, no. You are kidding. See, we don't.
I don't want you to let that camera
swings
put,
or anything like that.
I don't want you to let that camera put you off.
Just straight up and bash it. Did you get that? Not that. That up there, look.
Oh. That wasn't a bad hit.
Got a bit of power there, haven't I?
Yeah. Had the controlled draw straight into that tree.
What? That's one each?
Yep.
You
Not far from where that lady's lying on the ground over there.
No. Rightio. Right.
You got the right
what do you
club there?
recommend? An 8? An 8?
I reckon it's a sand. I mean, probably a foot wedge.
No, you can't.
It's a foot wedge. Put that on. Then you just wedge it out there.
Oh, you are kidding. Yeah.
What you got to do? Do you know how to play this shot?
Yes, I do, Michael.
How are you going to play it?
I'm going to keep it low.
Yeah. How do you keep the ball low? What do you do if you're kicking into the wind?
You don't follow through. No, no. I know what you do.
What?
You come. If you're trying to hit the ball low,
yeah,
you just
come down on it.
Chip it.
Come down it. So
Yeah,
you put the ball back in the stance a little bit.
That's right.
Keep your head down.
Do you reckon I'm using the right club? 7 iron?
I'd hit a 4 iron and get choked down on the club.
No, I don't like that.
All right.
That'll go through there just nicely. Watch.
Are those sunglasses essential, are they?
They are essential. Do you want to get a pair? Get you a good deal, Snoz.
Not bad.
No, that was very poor.
That's okay. It's just a chip and a putt from there. And you get a par.
That's all right.
It's okay.
Bit of pressure on you, though, because you could just...
Not really, because I'm there for 2 and you've already had, what, 8?
No, 3.
I think you're going to count your penalties.
No, I haven't got any penalties, Snoz.
Come on.
In the 1991 State of Origin, a series decided on kicks, Michael O'Connor would face one of the great pressure moments in the game.
A long pass out. McCall got it down. It's a try. We're back square. It's locked up again, the Origin.
First thing that I thought of when Mark McGaw scored that try, I was just total elation, 14-all, because we looked as though we'd lose the series. Scored it, and I jumped in the air, and while I was doing so, I thought, oh no, I've got to kick this goal. And but then I instantly focused back on that game where I missed a goal the week before, and I was just so determined. I can remember the feeling that I had, and then it was totally positive. I just grabbed the ball, I went and found the ball, didn't wait for the ball boy to give it to me. I went and grabbed the ball and just mentally rehearsed kicking that goal, and that's all I did. I just knew by the time I took the ball in the hand, I just knew that I was going to kick that goal.
Well, Gary Belcher's on the sidelines for us tonight. And
In the third and deciding match at Lang Park, Michael's goal kicking was destroyed when he was knocked out by Mel Meninga. The Blues lost the series, and Michael was left with his face battered yet again.
2 or 3 defenders every time he gets the ball, and the hole was on the outside.
Sparkles McGaw.
Michael O'Connor looks like he's in some serious trouble in the background. Went straight down after the play of the ball, and there'll be some concerned faces on the New South Wales bench concerning Michael O'Connor.
Look at my nose now. Like I've had 2 nose jobs. After Mel broke it last year, I just couldn't breathe through either nostril, and I had to go, because I had a bone over here, and I had to go and get that pushed over so that I could breathe. I used to wake up choking at night time. So it's been operated on twice, and look, I mean, this is the result. It was a lot worse.
They need a steady passage here, Canberra. Hetherington apparently is back out there, Huey.
In 1992, Matthew Ridge came under the spotlight for his aggressive play following an early round run-in with the Canberra Raiders.
A good tackle from Ridge. Now Stewart has been hurt.
I copped a lot of flack for a tackle that I pulled off on Ricky Stewart, but Ricky Stewart's a great player. I've got a lot of time for him as a player's concerned, but he punched me in the face when we played Canberra and we beat them 46-12, and he walloped me and he said, have a go, you know, he said, why don't you run, you fish, or something. I can't remember the exact words he said, but I can remember thinking, nobody ever says that to me, mate, and one day I'll have the opportunity to get you back. When I got the opportunity to get him, I saw him coming, and I didn't go out of my way to hurt him, but I just wanted to let him know I was around. And I knew I'd hurt him. And I'm not proud of what I did, but I saved a try, and I'd got a debt back. And he's probably going to get me next time too.
What's that, 3? Yep. 300.
Really?
I'm not going to say anything.
No, don't say anything, because you're liable to get a golf bat wrapped around your head.
Oh, there it is.
Is this going to be censored?
Manly. 30 seconds on the clock, grand final. Rich takes a shot for goal.
Grand final, is it?
Goodness me, I'd hate to rely on you in the trenches. That's better.
You wouldn't want to be in a hurry.
Oh, Matthew.
Crummy. Boy, Jimmy.
Matthew Ridge and Michael O'Connor are the golden success stories of the rugby union to rugby league converts, both driven by a fear of failure and remarkable ability.
Ridge comes up to the front line.
For Matthew Ridge, the glory days are only just beginning. He gets better and better.
Back waiting. Ridge gets the try they need. Riolo never got the support, and the Manly players climbed all over him.
He's got age on his side. I think that he's going to go down as one of the finest fullbacks that we've seen. Like, he's a fullback in a different mould. He's in the Matthew Ridge mould. He's not in the mould of any other fullback. He's in his own mould. And he's the finest fullback I've coached, that's for sure.
To play rugby union and rugby league for your country for me, was the ultimate. And I am very, very proud of achieving that. But I think I can. I never played a test in rugby union, and I never will. And I've played 4 tests in rugby league, but that's not good enough for me. I want to play 34, 44, 54.
So this is to win the whole?
Oh, you're kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
How many have you had? Okay, 1.
No, this is my 7th shot, right? Okay, that was 4 to the air. 5, 6. You missed that 7. You blew the hole.
I've had an 8, and you've had 7.
No.
So this is
my
half the
7th
hole.
now. No.
But you had 3 off the tee.
No, 3, 4, 5, 6. This to win the hole.
You've had 2 shots there.
Yeah, I know. I got 3 to the air.
So you're not counting
4,
your first shot.
5.
You're not
What do you
counting
mean?
the shot that you missed.
No, because that was my warm-up. I said that before we even started.
Fair enough. Well, I might not count that putt.
No, you have to, Snoz. Oh. Okay, we have the hole.
For Michael O'Connor, 1992 is the end of his rugby career. He still has the magic and the sidestep.
Michael O'Connor's impact on rugby league extends past his playing career, the wonderful evasive skills that he showed, the great goal-kicking, personable, intelligent, young, articulate man, but also he's demonstrated in his work in the media that he's shown that not all league players are thick in the head. And we don't believe that it's just because he's a rugby union player that he's demonstrated those skills, because after all, he was a leaguey when he was a young lad in Canberra.
He's been 13 years at the top of football, a gifted, entertaining point-scoring machine, soon to face life without football.
Got the court inside. O'Connor doesn't need anybody. What a sensational effort from Michael O'Connor.
It's been a major part of my life since I was 5. Every year I played football, and it's going to be really strange having a season off. And I'll probably just take it easy for a year or two, but it's in my blood, and I'd be very surprised if I didn't have something to do, whether in an administrative capacity or as a coach or even in the media. I'd be very surprised if I didn't keep up some contact with both games, because basically I love both games. They've been very good to me.
He's probably the most celebrated rugby union convert ever, and if I, at the end of the day, can wind up my career and be compared to Michael O'Connor, I'll be a happy man.
There is a man in a hurry, Matthew, and I don't really know where. I'll be surprised if Matthew's still playing the game when he's my age. Probably playing Davis Cup tennis or something, I don't know.
Well, hey, I'd love to go and play American football, I don't deny it. I mean, to walk on the field, knock a goal over and get paid $1 million a year would be pretty nice, wouldn't it? I wouldn't get any more scars on my face either. Take my partner and cry, Michael O'Connor. What about his nose, for God's sake? And if I end up with a nose like that, I'll be very, very dirty on rugby league. I'll tell you what, I'll be getting a nose job that quick.